Thank God for that thing. My husband gave it to me. Some people think it's ridiculous. A deaf woman with an iPhone, that's just ignorance, and there's no app for that. Text messaging was actually based on technology deaf people have been using for decades to use the telephone. So there. Plus, with the iPhone, I am completely accessible at all times, which isn't always such a good thing. But you should know that that little device is a major concession for me. I don't like to fit in. I spent too much of my life trying too hard. The only thing worth fitting in is your genes. That's what I tell my son. Told. Every day, parents have to make millions of decisions. From everywhere from where do we want to go today to what do I want to dress the kid in. And each one of these decisions has an impact on their child's life. While some, such as what to wear, are inconsequential, others can have real and lasting impacts on your child's life. And in some cases, these decisions can lead to life or death. Senseless by Catherine Rowell. Some people wonder if it's rude to ask if I was born deaf. No, it's not, and no, I wasn't. I was born perfect. I loved the sound of my mother singing, and I can still remember what my dad's laugh sounded like. But when I was 11, I had this epic war with meningitis, and all of a sudden, Mom, I couldn't hear Mom singing, and my dad stopped laughing. The school was hard for me. It wasn't that I wasn't smart. I mean, the words smart and Alec were frequently mentioned with my name. The problem was fitting in. People didn't understand me, and I didn't understand them on so many levels. So school was lonely. Well, until I met Terry. And at first, he just smiled a lot. And then he would write me notes, and that's actually how we went on our first date. Pens and notepads in hand. Oh, what did he call it? Email, circa 1989. Eventually he learned how to sign, and his hands were big and slow and clumsy, but well, so was my heart, so it worked out perfectly. When we got married, Terry had no idea what he got himself into, because we had to go house hunting. We had to find a deaf-friendly house. Hardwood floors so I could feel when someone was coming, lights that corresponded with the doorbell so I knew if someone was there. And we looked for 8 months before we finally found this place. I think we'll retire and die in this house. It's so much of who we are. And when Spencer was born, this house finally felt like a home. It wasn't supposed to happen. Deafness is almost always just one generation thick. Spencer was gonna be my loud, musical, normal little boy. When we found out that he wasn't going to be, that he wasn't going to fit in, I made the decision to never try to make him something he wasn't. Spencer was going to be born perfect. That's why I insisted against the cochlear implant. Gosh, Terry was furious with me. Kept saying that I was just being selfish and that I was only thinking about my pride. But you know, it was about pride. It was about my son. There was nothing about him that needed to be fixed. We started him in hearing school because, Terry wanted him to try it. But he was labeled so many things in those first few years. First, he was hearing challenged, then he was ear disabled, then he was special, then he was deaf. Then he was hearing impaired, and then he was just retarded, and it was about then that I decided we were taking him out and we were moving him to the Clark School for the Deaf. And for the next 6 years, he loved going to school. Oh, I remember he'd come home with all this slang sign and all these stories about all of his friends, and I was so proud to have raised a son who was so happy. But Spencer learned about the cochlear implant in school. God, when he first brought it up, I was so angry with him. I felt betrayed. But then he smiled at me. And those big brown eyes melted whatever resistance I had left. So I agreed to talk about it. And oh, he was so excited. He went to the library to get some research, some information. And on his way out the door, he made some smart aleck comment about how in the future, if I wanted to get my own way, I should remember that the silent treatment doesn't work on the deaf. But you know, that was the last moment I had with my son alive. You see, he must have been so excited to show us all of his research. He must have wanted to spread his papers out all over the table and excitedly rattle off all the amazing things he was going to do once he had his surgery. He must have been in such a rush to get home. He must have been in such a rush to prove me wrong. Because if he wasn't, he would have been paying more attention. He would have seen that truck coming. I mean, what was he doing at a blind intersection anyway, daring fate? When he was born, why did I say no? When he asked about it, why didn't I just say yes? Why didn't I get rid of my own pride? Why didn't I just listen to him? Because I could have done anything other than what I did, and Spencer would still be here. It's Terry, the funeral director, has confirmed for this weekend. I guess I have to tell everybody. Thank God for email, because I don't know how I would tell anyone, even if I could.